How's it going, Song of Ice and Fire fans? It's Grant from Yecats Miniatures, back again with another episode of our Hobby Hangout, where I get some of the community's best painters and force them to tell me their secrets. So today, I've got the winner of Best Painted for our recent tournament, the Battle of Three Swords in Chelmsford, Lewis Flanders. How's it going, Lewis?
How's it going, Grant? Nice to chat with you.
That's nice, mate. Cheers for coming on, mate. Cheers for coming on and talking to me and giving me all your secrets about how to paint Targaryens.
Well, I think you're the godfather of Targaryens. I use some of your tutorials to get me started, to be honest.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, well, there's more of that coming. So, yeah, but even so, mate, you've got a lot of your own sort of spin on this army. So when we get into it, we're going to go into some of your basing styles and stuff, which would be really cool. And obviously, you do some really nice stuff with the Unsullied. So we're going to get into that momentarily. But first and foremost, mate, do you want to just introduce yourself? You know, how long you've been playing? Why, out of all the armies, did you choose Targaryens?
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, as you say, I'm Lewis. I'm very new to Song of Ice and Fire, not necessarily miniature war games. I played a bit of Warhammer Fantasy before, done pretty much only that, to be honest. And then Dan Toon, who obviously won Best Sportsman at the competition, he introduced one of my good mates, Naz, to this, and they was like, "You've got to play it. It's the best game." And lo and behold, yeah, it is. I think I played one intro game. And we went out for drinks that night. I got drunk and bought the Targaryen starter set, and that was it. Then within like a couple of weeks, I had everything, and I hate unpainted models, so I had to get stuck in as soon as possible.
You've sort of got that wrong, really, because normally when you get drunk and buy stuff, it's normally like gargoyles for the house or pet crocodiles or something like that.
Yeah. So of all the drunken purchases, this is probably one of my better ones.
Fair play. So what sort of drew you to Targaryens rather than any of the other factions?
Well, if you watch the show and read the books, they're the best. It's objectionable. It's not even subjective. They're absolutely. They've got the best cavalry in the Unsullied. In the Dothraki. They've got the coolest character in Khal Drogo. They've got dragons. They've got the Unsullied, who are just awesome. It's a bit just a no-brainer, I think.
Fair enough, mate. Well, people listening to the channel know that my favourite faction is Targaryens. Been playing bits and pieces of different factions recently, but I'll always go back to Targaryens, my favourite. The only reason I've been playing them that much recently is because I've forcing myself to finish the Road to Mirri series, the paint tutorial series, before I play them again. So I am itching to get back and play them again.
I'm really looking forward to that. I've left some of the harder units to paint for when you tell me how to paint them.
A paintbrush, mate. We'll paintbrush and paint.
Yeah.
Don't use a roller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, sweet. So we're going to get into some of these units in a second, but just obviously one of the biggest problems that people face when painting Targaryens is the lack of unity within the army. When you've got as you say, the Unsullied, who are your really nice regimented-looking troops. You've got your Dothraki, which are like your barbaric horde. You've got your pit fighters, your brazen beasts. Obviously, you haven't painted any of these in this army, but it's such a varied army when it comes to units. How did you sort of approach coming into this, trying to make it look part of a like a unified force, or did that not bother you at the time?
No, it definitely bothered me. I've got quite a bit of like when it comes to army painting, I've got quite a bit of OCD. So if I was to like paint half my army at the beginning of the year and then half at the end of the year, I'd be just livid if they didn't look uniform. So it definitely went into my sort of planning. But you've obviously got no real armor on the Dothraki. You've got a little bit on the Unsullieds, and so it's nothing like that really sort of gels them together. So I just went with the colours and the basing. So we've got that as rich a red running through the army as I could. Obviously on the loincloths of the Dothraki and the same with the Unsullied. And then again, just the basing. So you'll notice as you go along, like I've got the same basing throughout, and it just sort of, I did my best to use that to pull everything together.
Yeah, I think that's important. When playing an army, you really can't downplay the importance of your basing, because the base is the largest singular facing of any part of that unit. So that will catch your eye first, just because of the sheer size of it. You know, even on the solos, it's a large surface area. I think you can do a lot, and which is what you've managed to achieve. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get into these. So we're going to start with your Dothraki. So on screen now, I'll put your Dothraki Screamers. So these are obviously the basic unit in a starter set. Did you start with the Dothraki? Did you start with something else?
So I made a massive mistake. So I actually started with, I weren't too sure what everything was in the box to begin with, but I started with my veterans, which actually didn't make it into this list, probably for good reason, because they were sort of like my trial unit, and they went okay. They didn't go great. So when I then approached my Screamers, which were my next unit, I just sort of took everything I learned from the vets, a few tutorials online, and just sort of managed to pull something together that was a little bit more presentable on the table.
We can see you've used the non-metallic metal on the swords. We're not going to talk about this now because this really comes into what I think is your best part of the Unsullied is non-metallic metal for me personally. So we'll get into that when we go over to them. But how do you approach painting horses then? Is that something, do you use real life sort of references and stuff, or?
Well, as much as I could, but it's like I just struggled really hard. Horses are just very difficult, I found, to paint, especially the white ones. I just couldn't get it right. I think the brown horses are, they sort of paint themselves in a way, because like I just used like the direction of the brush strokes, obviously. So if where your brush ends is where the most build up of paint pigment's going to be, so you just start from the bottom where you can see like the dark hoofs. That was just basic. That's basically like my primer. Yeah, so I just sort of gradually increase the value of the color as I move up the horse. Browns was just brilliant. They sort of they seem to paint themselves. The white being hard, and probably black even harder. Some of the black horses were very, very difficult to paint.
So with your horses, is it all paintbrush or do you use airbrush?
I haven't used airbrush at all. I do have an airbrush, but one thing I learned straight away, I don't know if anyone has experienced this, is these minis are just, I don't even know how to explain it. They're different to GW minis. I don't know how, and I didn't want to just go in with the airbrush and with something I didn't really understand, so I just went in with a brush, and I think it sort of it come out all right.
The reason I'm asking about the airbrush is the transitions between the browns are really, really nice, and it almost could be confused for being an airbrush. So I just wondered if it had been, especially the stuff like the black socks. It's that sort of thing that I'd go to an airbrush to achieve. So you've done really well to get that with a paintbrush. That's awesome.
Nice one, thank you. I think the wet palette was obviously invaluable there. Just really thin browns and just layers and layers and layers.
Okay, cool. And just on the Dothraki themselves, then. So you say you've used that red throughout the army to sort of tie these in. And the brown stuff, but it's quite nice. You've kept the red quite an earthy red as well. It's not really, really bright like a blood angel sort of red.
Okay, yeah. I don't think that was quite a conscious decision, but I've just got like a definitely. That was exactly what I wanted, and I'm glad it shone through.
Awesome. And we're just getting a little bit about your base now as well. So you've gone for like a muddy sort of basing effect with like arrows and broken bits of battlefield debris in it. So what's your thinking behind that, and how did you achieve that?
So I was like, first of all, I was like, right, where are they going to be? Are they going to be in Essos? Are they going to potentially be on Dragonstone? Are they going to be in Westeros? So I thought, in order to be, thematic and accurate when they're fighting all these different factions, I was like, let's put them in Westeros. Right? What's the main bit of Westeros? It's fields and hills and grass. But then I was like, okay, I've got an army that's mainly cavalry. They're going to have chewed the life out of this mud. So I wanted it to look like just absolute carnage. You know how the Dothraki fight, they just sort of tear in and just get stuck in. So I wanted it to look as much like that as I could.
That's really what comes to life with these units is how churned up the floor is, and I did wonder if that was the decision because of obviously the bulk of the army being cavalry. Where did you get all the like the things like arrows and the shields from? Is that Games Workshop extras?
No, just Etsy. Like with 3D printing now, it is so like it's wide open. You can get pretty much anything. So 3D printed shields, 3D printed arrows. The rocks were just like out of like a basing kit, which I then primed and then painted to look exactly like they did before they were primed.
Standard. I mean, when it comes to rocks and basing, I really enjoy having like resin printed ones as well because they're so much easier to drill into if you need to. I've had so many drill bits that have just blunted and snapped because I'm trying to drill into a bit of flint and of it a bit of a composite metal that's sort of in between the layers.
Yeah. I never really did any drilling, so I haven't come across that yet, but I'm sure I will.
So that's cool. That's the Screamers. Then we go on to the Dothraki, which are very, very similar. So did you approach any different sort of way, or is this literally just exactly the same as the Screamers?
Yes, the boring answer is the exact same. Obviously, we've got a couple different coloured horses. The grey one I think come out all right. I really like that one, but the black, you're doing a really good job of making that black one not look as bad as it does.
I replaced it. I replaced it for you. That's actually a real horse, that is.
Yeah. These were probably my MVP on the day, the Outriders. When you get the Fortune Seeker in there, these things are just absolutely amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really good. I think they're one of the best 6-point range units in the game. Obviously, they're now competing against the Skyreach Bowmen, but I think these are so good.
Yeah, I really do like these. I like having another unit with Jorah who's knocking about somewhere. We'll talk about him, but I like having one with Jorah and one with a Fortune Seeker.
Yeah.
And I think they set them off as well when you start getting your attachments in units. That's like really sort of adds a little bit of something to the unit as well.
Yeah. When it comes to painting these units, do you batch paint or do you paint individually?
Yeah, batch. So I did every horse. I did at this, like I had on my desk in front of me under the light, and I painted. I went through the whole lot in one go. Which, speaking to some people, there was like, that's probably not the best idea. You're probably going to get like painter's fatigue, and yeah, I did quite a few times. But I just, as I say, I want everything to look as similar as possible. So if I'm doing one layer or one coat, I want to apply it the same across every horse.
I think there is a certain element of when you're painting horde armies such as Dothraki, and your pit fighters and your Brazen Beast stuff. I think there is an element to like sort of allow yourself a little bit of leeway to paint them in different stages and different batches, because having them look slightly different isn't the end of the world. I'm a massive advocate for realistic army painting, do you know what I mean? So that things look real rather than, I know this is a world with dragons and dire wolves and zombies and stuff, you know, that hasn't got to be 100% realistic, but I really do enjoy them being realistic.
Yeah. But that's some of the hardest painting to do. Like we obviously we'll speak about the metals later, but when if I sort of find myself getting hung up on sort of what would this armor look like in real life, I find that I sort of like hinder myself, and I spend too long trying to figure out how to do it rather than actually painting.
Cool. Okay, no worries. And obviously, all the Dothraki will paint together as well in one big batch as well, right? So when you say you paint them in one big batch, you paint the whole starter set in one big batch of horses.
Yeah, the whole starter set and and an extra unit of vets as well.
Oof.
Yeah.
I was sitting there thinking, did he mean just the Outriders, like 4 horses, or did he mean the entire starter set?
Yeah, the whole lot. Yeah.
Not all heroes wear capes.
That's it. Obviously, I was trying to get him ready for LGT, but I just found myself rushing, and I really weren't liking what I was doing. So I thought, right, let's just have a few unpainted units for that, suffer that for one tournament, and then we'll go into 3 swords fully painted.
I really like the blend on the horse, the brown horse's nose with the black going into the brown as well. That's a really nice blend. Is that all done through the wet palette as well, you say?
Yeah, just wet palette and really thin paints.
Nice. And you use Games Workshop paints?
So I've got Games Workshop. I have Vallejo Model Color, Vallejo Game Color, but my actual favourite are AK Interactive. I think they're the best. I think I'm going to just move forward with them. I really like the consistency and how they sort of come off the brush onto the model. There's no clumping or breaking up of it. It's just, I think they're brilliant.
Cool. Okay, sweet. And just so for the last cavalry models, then we're going to move on to your cavalry attachments. So here you've got the Glory Seeker, and what I'll do is, obviously as Min you were talking, you're seeing these spin on screen, but what I'll do for the viewers that are listening to and watching the channel, I'll stop on each one as we talk about them. So we're going to start with, I think let's start with your Glory Seeker.
Okay.
I really like this. I really like what we've done here because I remember from the chats that you were talking about this being a Targaryen law house. This summon thing. The red is really nice because it still brings it into the Targaryen look. I like the fact you got black. I love the black and red contrast. It's really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
And also you've got some of this non-metallic metal, which we'll get into more in the Unsullied stuff. But do you want to talk us about your ideas around this Glory Seeker, how you approach the painting?
Yeah, so he sits in the Outriders to give them the dreaded attack off bags. So he sits in there. And I think it's actually a really good contrast where obviously the Outriders are just naked, just got their little loincloths. He's got his armour, he's got his shield, his horses, he's completely covered. I think it adds a really good sort of like contrast for them. And Yeah, but as I sort of said, well, you get the Hedge Knight pack, don't you? And you've obviously got 4 in there. So I was eventually, my other army is Stark, so I'm going to paint another one of them to be like a Stark loyal Hedge Knight. So this one I wanted to look as Targaryen as possible. The freehand on the shield, I actually tried about 3 bazillion times to do the 3-headed dragon.
And just for people listening, a bajillion times is a little bit less than Kazillion, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. I didn't have the patience for a Kazillion.
Okay, fair play. Yeah, carry
on. So yeah, I just went for just I don't know, like easy shapes, I guess. Just like bright contrast rather than the 3-headed dragon. I kept the colours just to symbolise, like, obviously he's part of the Targaryen army. And yeah, it's another one of these ones where it sort of like painted itself, really. Once you started putting the red on, I wanted to contrast against the black, and then I wanted to contrast that against the red again. So before I knew it, it was like painted in one sitting. Before I knew it, it was painted.
Yeah, I quite like as well where you've gone for like you've got the earthy colours on his like tunic and stuff as well, like underneath the shield and armour. So it sort of still ties into that really like earthy neutral tones, but it must be nice getting some colours out rather than just the browns and the beiges of the Dothraki, right?
Yeah, it is nice to get a few colours on there, and it was almost like, like I felt a bit of a cop. Like, what colour should I put on my Hedge Knight? Oh, it's red and black again. But I think, I don't know. I just really like the way it ties in. It's really nice and bright. Yeah, and I think it goes well. I think you need that brown, that sort of like that break from the bright colours on him as well, actually. Because if he had like a brightly coloured tunic, I feel like it was a little bit swamped.
Then I agree with that. I definitely agree. And again, the basing ties it in nicely with the army anyway. Next up, we've got Jorah Mormont, catching friend zone.
Yep,
So
Jorah the Explorer.
Jorah the Explorer, indeed, mate. Yeah. So you've gone for again. You've gone for like this brownie horse and the dark nose stuff, presumably tight in with the rest of the army. But it's quite nice you managed to get some of the greens and the beiges from House Mormont in there as well. When you paint these models, do you paint from the card artwork or do you sort of let yourself have free reign?
I do. I have the card in front of me while I'm painting, and I get a few sort of like reference photos up on Google just to sort of get me give me a bit of an idea of what I want to do. But if something was there like while I'm painting it, oh, that would actually look better if that was blue, then I don't sort of tie myself down to that. Although I would like to get it as accurate as possible.
Yeah, I'm the same. I really enjoy having them look like the artwork because I don't know. I just have to get my OCD of wanting things to look like they are on the card as well. But yeah, you are right. You can't be tied down to just do that. But anyway, that's just interested in that question, really. So do you want to talk us through sort of your approach to draw and why you sort of went for the colours you did, and obviously aside from the artwork as to how you painted them and how you approached it?
Yeah, sure. So, Jorah, he was sort of like, after I did my mighty horde of Dothraki, he was sort of like my respite model. I sort of rewarded myself with a character. So he was the first character I actually painted. And so the green, it was just sort of like I think I haven't got the card in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that was from the card. Made me want to do that, and I wanted it obviously quite contrasting. And checking up at your your handy color wheel, you've got red on the other side, so that was quite handy. That could tie in with the army as well. So on the throw that's over the horse, I got a bit of red in there, and his snood, or I don't know what you'd call that thing around his neck.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, that is just cards on the table, just really over highlighted beige. I highlighted it too much, and I thought, oh well, let's just see what we can do with it. And it ended up, I feel I'm happy with it.
Yeah, man, it's really good, man. It's really good. Yeah, cool. No, you've done a really good job on that one. So let's get around to and obviously just before we go, you used them as an attachment rather than a solo in this tournament.
I just because that what's that rule that the order he's got that allows you to do a 3-inch shift.
Tactical reposition.
Yeah, tactical reposition. I basically I just used him to sitting another unit of Outriders behind my main unit of Outriders, so that they could get in and out of range of other archer units. Yeah, take shots, then retreat out of range so they can't be shot back.
Taking it to the range warfare.
Yeah.
Cool, okay. And your last attachment, or we probably should say your first commander we're going to see today, is Khal Drogo. So I've always loved this miniature. I think it's a great miniature. It's when he first came out in the game, he wasn't a great attachment, a great commander, but in the revised edition, he's been brilliant, and I think that's really nice to have him being that good. Because as a character, he's amazing. You mentioned at the beginning that he's one of the best characters for Targaryens. So, do you want to talk to me? The horse is slightly red because there is a lore thing behind that, right? Or is that just
Yeah.
okay? Cool. So, go and talk to us about the horse then.
Yes. So obviously brown being quite easy to paint. I sort of started off with a base of brown, but Drogo in the books, he rides a red horse. He doesn't have. I've seen the artwork where I think it's actually right behind me. Let me just have a quick check. Yeah, he's riding like a grey or white horse on the artwork and on the box. But I know from the books and the lore that he rides a red stallion. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a nice red, without it looking fake again, without it looking like the Fortune Seeker. I wanted him to be as red as possible.
Yeah, I did exactly the same thing with Khal Drogo. So you've done exactly the same as what I've done. It's where it's that reddy brown rather than that deeper red. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That can sort of take it into the realms of not looking like a real horse if it's like scarlet red.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Cool. And obviously, Khal Drogo himself, obviously, you approached him the same way as you approached the rest of the Dothraki.
Yeah, I approached him the exact same way. The only difference being he was the very last model that I painted, so he was my favourite character. I think he's, without a shadow of a doubt, the best combatant in the whole of Song of Ice and Fire. There is no one that he wouldn't beat. I wanted him to look the best. Like, I wanted him to be my best model on the table. So I waited until the last moment, once I'd learned all of the mistakes from the other models, and hopefully he came out the best. I think he did.
Yeah, 100%. It was great. I mean, what I quite like as well, he's the only Dothraki miniature you have in this army, but it's got gold on it. Was that a choice as well?
It was mainly because I wanted to do non-metallics throughout the army. I wanted to really sort of try my best and try my hand at it. Actually, another guy from the club, is it Oliver?
OJ, yeah.
Yeah. When I saw his Baratheons, I made a decision. I was like, I'm doing that. I'm learning how to do that. That looks so good. So yeah. I wanted to push the non-metallics, and I don't know how many horses altogether, 4, 8, 16, 24 horses worth of gold non-metallic that I think I would have lost my mind. So I just I just decided that, and Khal Drogo being the great Khal, I wanted him to look like it as well. Like he is the top dog. So I decided I was going to go and try and do the gold non-metallic on him.
I think I did the same thing with my Dothrakis. Like they had silver on the Screamers and the Outriders. I had bronze on the veterans, and I had gold on the Blood Riders and Khal Drogo. For me, it signifies sort of hierarchy in the Dothraki sort of way of living as well.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. I wish I did that.
Well, you did, didn't you? That's what this is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, sweet. Well, is there anything else you want to talk to us about these 3 minutes before we move on?
No, not really. I think we've covered everything.
Anything you're particularly proud of them?
Blowing my own trumpet. I'm actually really proud of how these turned out, because when I first started, I actually found Song miniatures quite difficult to paint. I don't know what it is about them. I was saying to Dan, these are just like really working against me, and then sort of like actually, sort of getting to a point where I was happy with them, and then just obviously winning best painted. It was incredible. It was brilliant feeling. So I'm over the moon with them, really.
So just on that then, that's interesting me, because that's the second time you mentioned it now. So how does what was different for you painting these guys? Is it the application of paint, or?
I was trying to explain it to Dan, and I was like, all I could kept saying was like the folds, like the folds and the creases in the models. They just, I don't know what it was, that I was just really having a tough time applying the paint how I was used to applying them with the GW models. And I don't actually remember the point in time where it suddenly became a little bit easier. but it did, and I'm glad that I sort of stuck with it and persevered, because now I'm really excited to just keep churning out song miniatures, because I think they look really good once you get your head around them.
Okay, cool. So next up, I think we need to spend a bit more time talking about these, because this is one of the biggest parts of one of the biggest, most eye-drawing parts of the army. So you spoke a moment ago about the non-metallic metals. So we have got your Unsullied on screen now. This is where your non-metallic metal really, really sort of jumps into life, and it's why I wanted to wait until we had these guys on screen before you spoke about it. So do you want to talk about the reasoning behind using non-metallic metals, the way you do it?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, again, don't know Brown knows him too much, but that Baratheon army, when I saw it at LGT, I really sort of saw what non-metallic metal could look like on the table and how striking it could be. So I knew I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it in kind of like a big way, same as OJ did. When I sort of popped these out of their pack and I saw these big shields, I was like, yeah, that's what I want to be doing that on. So I knew that I was gonna be doing that. So I left them shields till last, because I don't know if I'd have had the willpower to do the rest of the model if I did them first. Yeah, I think once, to be honest, like I don't think I've nailed it at all. I'm on the thin end of a very fat wedge when it comes to non-metallic metals, but overall I was very, very pleased with it. Contrast, I think, was the main thing that I wanted. I've learned early on that I was not gonna smash the blends between the stages and the highlights. So I just wanted really high contrast to really draw the eye, and a lot of like information, so a lot of scratches and a lot of dents and sort of battle damage to sort of detract the eye away from the fact that the blends weren't necessarily the smoothest.
Fair enough. So do you want to talk us through how you paint the non-metallic metal?
Yeah, sure. So I started with first of all, do I want them gold or silver? I think that's the main question that you sort of I had to ask first, and I wanted them gold. I wanted them to be, or like a tarnished bronze, or a tarnished sort of, yeah, like a tarnishy kind of look. You know, that they're battle worn, and so I started with a sort of like a dark olive green, which you can see on the bottom of the shields. That space. I was gonna start delving into stuff like bounce lighting and secondary reflections, but I don't know enough about it yet to be able to pull that off. So I've left that little space in order to come back and sort of apply the sort of like the secondary reflections and stuff. So I started with the olive green, and again wet paletted the life out of it, just working my way up through sort of browns and ochres into like ivory, and then like a final sort of highlight of just pure white. Again, I think I may have over highlighted some bits. They might be a bit fatter than I would have liked, like the final bright white speculative highlight in the middle. But yeah, I can't complain. I think they've turned out better than I actually thought I was going to be able to get them.
I don't think you've over highlighted the centre of the shield there. I think it depends, doesn't it? Because it will be really white if it's highly polished, and if you've gone for a highly polished feel, then you've got it spot on, haven't you? Right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I do appreciate it. Yeah.
And obviously that has then been applied to all the sort of like, it's not all the armor, because you've got silver scale mail, but for like the helmet and like the what's it called, like the leg armor and
Yeah, the Greaves, is it Greaves?
that's it. Yeah. So did you do the shields first, or did you do the whole lot in one hit?
No, so I did the helmet, the body, the scale mail, the leathers, and the tunics, and then I sat down and just really sort of put my mind to them shields, and I just went to town on it. I think, yeah, so they were another sort of batch painting nightmare. I did them and the Swordmasters at the same time.
24 models, or two units of each?
No, just one unit of each. Yeah, so a unit of the pikemen and a unit of the swords. I was like, all right, let's have it then, and I just got stuck in.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that these are the ones that would benefit from your batch painting, because you want them to look regimented and as a unit. It's one of the only Targaryen units that benefit from looking regimented, right?
Yeah.
And also, it's worth mentioning here as well is that when you talk about the struggling with the cloth, these loincloths and these like skirts, mate, are absolutely stunning. You've done an amazing job on these.
Thank you, I appreciate that. These actually were a breath of fresh air, the loincloths here, because this was after that transition period of trying to figure out how to paint the song minis, and they just sort of, yeah, they was a dream. They had, nice flow to them. Everything sort of worked sort of perfectly how I wanted it to.
They look really good, mate. Really good. I think that sort of like, for me, they're the centerpiece of your army at the moment. Let's talk to Unsullied though. We'll jump onto the other Unsullied. So these are the Swordmasters. You've gone for the same sort of style with the gold non-metallic, but you've also got more non-metallic silver here as well on the swords and stuff, and also Bronn in the front rank. But just talk us through Unsullied first, and what you did differently with these guys than you did with the pikemen. What separated these from the pikemen, and we'll get into Bronn in a minute.
Yeah, no worries. So these were actually quite a bit easier because of the shields. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more sort of surfaces to add the shines from the non-metallic metal. So I think I had a much easier time selling the non-metallic metal effect on these shields than I did on the completely flat ones of the pikemen.
I've always really liked these shields as well, where they've got the studs on them. They're so aggressive. I really like them.
Yeah, like you got that sort of idea of, you like sort of advance on them and they just give you a little dig in the face with a shield first. Then they're sort of coming in with them swords, which I think they look brilliant. I really like their sort of curved, where you've got like the Westerosi knights with their straight swords. You've got these nice curved sort of saber looking swords. I think it really gives them like their own sort of personality in the unit.
How did you find them in the game? Did they perform for you on the day?
So when they manage to get into combat, they're an absolute nightmare, aren't they? They just chop things to pieces. My only problem is I was a bit too aggressive with them and got them into sticky situations where they couldn't get out of.
Yeah.
And they just got beat up a little bit. Yeah.
Fair enough. So also we've got on screen now Bronn as well. Obviously you've really locked him into the Targaryen identity here because you give him the red quilt mail, but you kept him with the earthy tone. So one, was that intentional? And two, are you going to use the same Bronn in your Starks, or are you going to do a new Bronn for your Starks?
The colouring was intentional. I wanted him to fit the arm because I knew he was going to be used in my Targaryen army, specifically in this unit. So the red was definitely a choice to make him look into Targaryen. Obviously, we know Bronn. He chops and changes. He does whatever he thinks is the best thing at the time was going to suit him. So he's just gone to the Westerosi supermarket and sorted himself out of a red tunic to fit in with the Targaryens. Am I right? Am I right in thinking there's a different pose Bronn, or there's a different model for Bronn?
So there's one with a Kickstarter. There's one with Neutral Heroes 3.
Yeah. So if I feel like Bronn would suit my Stark army or one of my Stark lists, I'll try and source the different model. That I think that would be quite cool. Simply that rather than just painting him different. Bronn was actually like, I don't know the word for it, but basically like the eureka moment when it came to painting brown leather for me. So once I'd finished him, I was very confident in my ability to paint the brown leather that he's got sort of over the top. And that recipe was translated across to my Fortune Seeker and any other of my the brown stuff.
So what sort of brands are they Games Workshop brands, or are they AK brands?
So I start off with a Games Workshop. So Dryad Bark is like a really dark, warm, sort of like a dark, warm brown, just to sort of like unify the shadows that I'm going to highlight up from, and then I just progress forward. So I've got so I'd add a bit of ivory to that to make that a bit brighter, and then just continuously add ivory towards it until it gets close to something. Like the brown I use, I actually can't see it in my rack at the minute, but it's a bit of a lighter brown in the AK range. Then that takes over. Then I just keep adding ivory to that, and just sort of till I get them sort of like edge highlight level browns.
Yeah, I think the ivory and the bone colours are really key to making that worn leather look.
Yeah,
It gives that because what I see when leather gets older, it sort of it starts bending and cracking, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
you get that sort of white colour underneath it. So it's quite. I really like it, mate. I think you've done a great job on Bronn here.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I think he's brilliant. I think Bronn, I sort of cottoned onto the power of Bronn, so I needed to get a nice version of him painted up, so I could chuck into a few of my units.
Cool. So next up, we've got your inventory attachments and your NCUs. So up on screen, we've got them all now. And again, I'll stop them as we go, so the viewers can actually look at them as we spin round. So first and foremost, we can talk about. Let's start with your Unsullied Officer. So, Unsullied Officer, presumably painted in exactly the same way as your normal Unsullied. Was it? Was anything different you approached this with, or was it literally just a case of painting exactly the same?
So in terms of like the process, it was pretty much exactly the same. I just wanted him to stand out. So he's like he's got like a more of a green tone rather than a goldy tone. He's got more like right. I've just sort of progressed up with the olive green rather than transitioning across to the gold like I did on the Swordmasters, just to make him look a bit standoutish. I did find that green itself, there must be something different with the pigment. Like when I'm actually trying to blend on the shields for the non-metallic metal, it actually worked a lot easier and a lot smoother. As I'm sort of dragging the brush across, there was no sort of breaks. I didn't have to go back over it as much. So it might have been a bit of an easier time painting the Unsullied in that scheme because, I think it would have alleviated some of the stress that comes with it. And yeah, obviously the red loincloth painted exactly the same way, just to keep him sort of in line and matching the rest of the army.
Yeah, nice. And we see him next to Grey Worm. Am I right in saying Grey Worm was a commander? Was your other commander?
Yeah, Grey was my second commander on the day. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So obviously, I love what you've done with Grey Worm here because he obviously really stands out because you've taken gold pretty much completely out of the equation with this miniature. You've gone really heavy on the non-metallic silver. Do you want to talk us like why you've done that and your reasoning behind that, and I suppose get into, if you can, your approach to non-metallic silver, because this I think is the right model to sort of talk about that as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted Grey Worm to stand out. Not only is he a really standout character, but he's obviously another commander, and I wanted him to contrast and stand out in the unit. So I decided that he was going to be my first attempt at sort of like a cold steel sort of look. And I decided that my sort of universal shadow tone across him was going to be a deep blue. I was going to try and sort of have this blue tone coming through his armor, so highlighting up through the blues, and sort of adding a touch of grey here and there to give it like a bit more of like a steely look. As I was painting him, I actually had the thought like this sort of scheme would go really well on my Starks, so that's been sort of benched for stuff like my Winterfell Guard. I think that would look really good on them. Same as sort of the Unsullied Commander, where the green was easier to blend, the blue was even easier, I felt. So I found it much easier sort of blending the blues together. They sort of they just sort of combined and blended a lot more smoothly than the other colours. So I'm excited to sort of push that scheme a bit further and see how far I can take that.
Yeah, so for people that are looking to sort of take the first steps into non-metallic metal, it can be a little bit daunting. I've done a little tiny bit myself, haven't done loads, but did you find is it much more time consuming than ordinary metals, and is it as hard as it looks for people that are looking to step into doing some of it?
It definitely takes a lot longer. Although I think it is much more rewarding, even if you don't nail it. So I've got this. I don't know whether it's just like looking at your own painting, but I always feel like if I use true metallics, everything just looks a bit flat for me, and I feel like even like my badly executed non-metallic metal, I think has a bit more visual interest than the flat metallic paints. There are some people like Dan, again, not to brown nose him, when he does his true metallics, he's got a really good way of getting these harsh highlights to shine through, which I think work really well. But I haven't developed that yet, so I think it just looks a bit more striking, and it's definitely worth doing it if you've got like the mental capacity to get through them blends, because it is a lot of blending and sort of fixing mistakes and correcting this and correcting that. But yeah, I think if you're sort of wanting to do it, well, yeah, if you see it, first of all, if you see an army where it's done well, like obviously I did, and you sort of got that inspiration, then it's definitely worth doing it. I think personally, I think it just adds something little bit more depth to the color, and just gives a lot more visual interest. Even if you don't necessarily do a good job at it, I still think it looks a little bit more visually interesting and striking than sort of like true metallics. And obviously you're looking at these at like a distance, right? So no one's, if you're not sort of looking for like, box art type level, if you're just sort of playing it, when you're sort of looking at it from a distance, then it really comes together, because you're not seeing the micro mistakes that you've made and the blends that didn't work. You're just seeing like a cohesive unit of non-metallic metal, and I think it's definitely worth doing.
Awesome. I mean, when I spoke to Dave Toon, he said about when he first saw your pikeman, he said, "How the fuck has he got it that shiny?"
Yeah, he was a really nice guy, really sort of complimentary on that. Like it made me feel really, really good because he was my first match of the day, and when I got him out and I put him on the table, he just sort of, it just made me feel really, really good about it. Obviously, when you sort of paint stuff yourself, everyone knows you like, oh, I didn't do this right, or oh, it could have looked better here, there. But when someone sort of reacts like that to your army, it's worth everything. It was really nice of him to sort of be like that.
Yeah. And obviously, as painters, we're obviously very critical of ourselves, but there's been stuff that I painted that hasn't been to the level that I wanted it to be, and I've never got to somewhere, got the army out, and had someone go, "You forgot to do the grip round the spear shaft, mate." Do you know what I mean? No one gives a fuck. Do you know what I mean? It's just but it's good that we are critical ourselves. It means we always try and better ourselves and better our ability, which is really cool.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so next up we have Daario Naharis. Awesome character, a really nice model. I've just painted him myself for the Road to Mirroring series, and I think he's possibly one of the nicest sculpts that you never see.
Definitely. Yeah.
So obviously, in the books he's got like blue hair or purple hair or a purple beard. So do you want to talk us through your painting process? You've gone for like a gold shoulder pad, right, and non-metallic silver swords and like scimitars and stuff, and obviously he's quite a loud, flamboyant character in the books. And how did you portray that on this miniature?
Yeah. I think Daario Naharis is incredible. When you sort of read the books and you sort of you see his personality come through, like he really, really does believe there's no one that he can't beat. He sort of says to Danny at certain points, like, do you want me to just go and just kill that person for you, or do you want me to do this? And I wanted him to seem as bright and sort of like confident on the table as he is in the book. So I've gone for as bright a color as I could for all three of the major colors on there. Keeping the red on the sort of like sash, whatever you call it, on the side of him, so he mixes well with the army. Book accurate Daario. He's got blue hair, blue beard, and a yellow moustache. So that's
Golden
what
moustache.
golden moustache. That's it. So that's what I've decided to do. That was a bit of a nightmare because he's obviously a very small model, but we got there in the end.
The thing is, like, I did the same thing, and it just, it's book accurate, so you do it, but you look and you think it don't look right.
Yeah.
It looks like I've mucked up, but it's not. It's just doing it book accurate, and sometimes you have to just accept the fact that the book accurate is book accurate, and just leave it as it is. And again, people look and go, "Oh, that's brilliant," but you're standing going, "Yeah, but it's fucking yellow moustache, isn't it?"
Yeah. This Wally's got a yellow moustache. Yeah. When I was sort of reading that through, and then I got the model out, I was like, why did he have to have that? Why can't he just have like just a standard beard and hair? Like, but I'm glad it does. Like, also like it's a really good conversation piece, because like whoever sees it, they're in one of two camps. Like, oh, that's quite a nice, that's a quite miniature. Like you've done all right there. Or there's like, I've seen what you've done there with the yellow moustache, because obviously in the books, and then you sort of you're talking to someone that's gone through the books and not just watched the show, and you can spark up a bit more conversation, which happened a few times actually, because he was painted for LGT, so I painted him actually before LGT, and there was obviously loads of people there. Every time, sort of like I got him out, there was quite a few people that were like, oh yeah, obviously because he does have blue hair, doesn't he? And then sparked up a lot of conversation, which got me talking to a whole host of new people, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Exactly the sort of people you want to be talking to is the people that bang into the lore, because then you're getting
Yeah.
really really good conversations out of them. And I tend to find people that are really into the lore will have really strange and cool lists, because they've done lore correct lists rather than what's strong in the meta at the minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay, sweet. Yeah, really nice. But really nice. Obviously, the really cool stiletto dagger thing that he carries well. You've done a really good job there. So before we move on, so on the tunic itself, is on the image, it looks like a bluey black. Was that a choice, or was that just a weird lighting on the camera?
I think actually, if you look at the card artwork, he's got quite a deep blue tunic on there, and I thought that I thought it looked really good. It obviously contrasts well, opposite on the color wheel to the red of the sash. So I thought that's going to contrast really well, and yeah, so that was the decision. Obviously, I start as dark as I can in order to increase that contrast as much as possible. So yeah, there probably is quite a bit of black in there, obviously from the primer, in the deepest recesses.
Nice. And it's really good, mate. It's really good.
Thank you.
And obviously rocking the old heroic stone as well to stand on, which is good.
Yeah, really good.
Next up, we have a complete and I've always loved Illyrio Mopatis, because I think he gives you opportunity to paint something that isn't earthy for the Targaryens. I've never seen him painted in a way that he doesn't look like Father Christmas. Which is apt, given that we're recording on the 29th of December, just having gone past Christmas. And also, it's nice for Father Christmas to have something to do for the rest of the year rather than deliver presents,
Exactly. What does he do?
Heal up units, mate, apparently. Cool. So, yeah, do you want to talk through your approach in this? Obviously, you've gone for gold, red, and purple, are really rich, because obviously he is a magister. He's got lots of money behind him. He's a merchant. So, do you want to talk to us about your approach to Illyrio?
Yeah, no problem. So, well, that is my actual only model where that is true metallic. So that is actually a gold paint on there, and that was just me experimenting with a different sort of scheme where I sort of base coat it in this olive green, then I sort of dry brush, like a heavy dry brush of like a gold color or like any metallic sort of across it, and then wash it, and then highlight it up with harsh highlights. As much as I don't mind that, I still think sort of in real life it has a lot less life to it than the non-metallic. So at some point I will go back through and try and do that in like real non-metallic, see if I can get a bit more depth to it. But I think it sort of it did okay for what it was.
No, it's really good, mate. It's really good. What's the purple that you used?
As in what color specifically, or
Yeah.
So that is so I started off with, believe it or not, it is a colour called purple, and it's from the Vallejo model colour range. And that was the purple. I added dryad bark to it to create the shadow tones, and then like a flesh colour. Where is that flesh colour? Can't see it now on my rack, but I added like a flesh colour through it to sort of get them highlights. And I chose purple. I can't remember if it's on his artwork or not, but obviously purple's known for being like like a royal colour. It's quite an affluent colour, so I wanted that in there just to sort of make him look as rich and flamboyant as possible.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a good. I think I actually did mine purple as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure I did, because it's a nice rich colour, isn't it? It sort of signifies that he's got a lot of wealth. That and his amazing gut.
Yeah, which is really nice to blend with a brush. It just sort of glides over his belly.
Nice. I expect to see an army of Varys and Illyrio next.
Oh yeah, Varys, yeah.
Cool. And next up we have Missandei. I've been using Missandei quite a lot. I think she's a great interview. I think the ability to just pluck a commander card out of your deck, I think is really good. But so you've obviously got Grey Worm, no Marsland, obviously Missandei's Marsland's sister. But she's been let out on her own. What was your approach to Missandei then?
Okay, so Missandei is she's there because I just got fed up and not getting the cards I wanted. So that's why she's there. she's got the brown scheme that I learnt from Bronn, so highlighting up from dryad bark with ivories, pushing as high as I can. Still blacks in the deepest recesses to push that contrast as much as possible. And then we've got a few sort of like tiny little butterflies, I think they are, or they appear to be butterflies across her dress. That's just like a deep blue again. But I've actually highlighted up for a colour called Azure, which is in the AK line, which is more like a purpley blue, just to give it a little bit of, identity, look a little bit different to the other blues, because she might be standing next to Xaro over there, so I wanted to look a little bit different.
Oh, nice. So that's an interesting choice. So it's good that you take on board some of the other NCUs on the board, and that's really interesting.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I wanted her to look at stand outish a little bit. Obviously, Xaro, if I'm painting blue on other things, if he's going to be near it, he's the bluest blue thing on the table. So I wanted them to look a bit different.
This is the first model we see you paint. First model I've mentioned you see you paint darker skin. So what's your approach to darker skin on miniatures as well?
Yeah, that was a bit difficult. Obviously, painting everything up through the holy triad of Bugman's Glow, Cadian Fleshstone, and Kislev Flesh. I was like, well, I can't do that on Missandei. I want to sort of try and get her accurate. So it has Bugman's Glow. So Bugman's Glow is the base. Dryad bark again, obviously from the GW line, just to get the shadows in there. And I just sort of added a touch of ivory to that mix, and just sort of kept the highlighting to a minimum to just try and keep the tone as dark as I could. I really didn't know what I was doing, really, when it comes to sort of like the darker skin tones. I didn't want it to look comical. I didn't want it to look just like stupid. So I sort of, sort of telling the truth, I got it to a stage where I was happy with it, and I just sort of like, right, that's it. I'm not touching it now. I'm happy with that. That's how she'll stay.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, isn't it? Because it's not like it was like it's even with Caucasian skin, like you get really light skin, you get more tan skin for Caucasian. So it's knowing a lot of us have one way of painting skin, and it's only really when we start looking at different like ethnicities that it becomes harder to paint. And for me, when it came to, because I was the same when I came into painting Targaryens, I hadn't painted that much like darker skin tones. It was all Caucasian skin tones. So I had to do a lot of research because I wanted to make sure I got it right. Because obviously, the Unsullied are from a certain part and will look a certain way. The Dothraki are a certain colour, come with a certain part, they look a certain way. And then that then translated over to the Pitfires, because then I was like, right, okay, well, the Pitfires, I want to have loads of different skin tones because these guys are from all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's doing that and trying to make sure that it all looks nice in the same unit as well. So it's a bit of it's definitely a learning experience when you first get around to painting darker skin tones. But you've done well, mate. You've achieved it really nice. It looks really well. It looks good. It looks exactly like it does in the artwork. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Now that you've said it, actually, when I get around to doing my pit fighters, yeah, I'm excited to having everyone looking a bit different. I'm used to everyone in the unit looking the same, but I'm really going to make an effort to paint them in a way where everyone looks different. Because obviously they are sort of gathered from here, there, and everywhere, so they are going to look different.
Yeah, and I think as well it gives you opportunity to do stuff like tribal tattoos as well to make them look really gnarly and scary. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing, and on all different various, because obviously gladiators and stuff they'll have tattoos to look a bit more scary in the fighting pit. So get some free hand on the go. Again, that's something that I've really picked up from OJ as well. Is the won't do freehand tattoos. He did it on Magna Mighty. It was really good, and I've been looking for an opportunity to be able to do that on my own armies. And I think the first place I can really do it and it look good is going to be the Pitfire. So
yeah, that will look good. I'm looking forward to that tutorial actually, Grant, because I want to do some tattoos and stuff across my Dothraki and obviously my Pitfires and that as well. So once you show me how to do that, I'll be cracking on.
No worries. All right, I'll try and do my best for you. And next up, no Targaryen army is complete without at least a version of Daenerys Targaryen being the only remaining Targaryen left in the universe that we're fighting in. So you've gone for Khaleesi rather than Queen of Meereen or Mother of Dragons. I really like this model. I think it's a fantastic model. I think it's probably one of the nicest out of the box NCU miniatures in the game. Do you want to talk us through your painting process, and maybe spend a bit of time telling us about how you do that really nice Targaryen silvery blonde hair?
Okay. Yeah, she had to be in the army first and foremost, because otherwise everyone would just weaken the life out of my Outriders. I can do nothing about it. So she had to be in there to help me out of that. And she was like one of the first people that I NCUs that I painted. And I actually started with the hair because obviously that's the biggest thing of the Targaryens, their sort of silvery goldish hair. And I was very conscious of the fact that I didn't want it to look like, if you try and do like silvery gold hair, I thought there was a danger of actually making her hair look metallic. And obviously I didn't want to do that, so I just sort of went for like quite a bright blonde rather than the golds or the silvers. And to be honest, it was a experimentation that went right. I think I started with like a really light leathery color. What sort of color is it? I think it's a color from Vallejo model color, and it's just called buff. Yeah, I don't get it, but it's kind of like a yellow ochre color, and that was like going to be the shadow tone through there, and then adding more and more of this ivory from the AK range, just to sort of push that brightness and push that contrast and that value as high as I could without it just looking like a white mess. And again, it's same as Missandei. I sort of got to a stage, and I was like, I'm really worried that if I add one more highlight to this, it's gonna look silly. So I just sort of left it as it was. And then that translated over to Illyrio. I did the same sort of thing on his hair, but I tried to make it ever so slightly different with Illyrio because obviously he's not Targaryen. I don't know if that come across, but that was sort of like the intent.
Yeah, no, it has come across really well, mate. That silver hair that I've seen so many people do it in different ways because it's completely open to interpretation because it just says in the books that it's silvery white. So I've done what you've done. I've gone for like a really bright blonde, but I've seen people do it with purple undertones so it looks silvery. We've gone from the purple undertones, but I think it then comes a little bit too close to looking too unrealistic.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was worried about doing.
But yeah, it all looks good, guy. You've done a really nice job. And again, it's that I love this version of her because I love this version of all the earthy colours, like, and it's such a massive difference between this version of her and the Queen of Marine version of her, or the Mother of Dragons.
They look, night and day. I'm a little bit. I'm actually struggling to figure out what some of the things are on that miniature. She's got like these like spiky bits that stick out the side of her. I'm like, are they feathers? Are they feathers? Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, so I was just struggling with that before I started painting it up. So yeah, now I know that I'll probably get stuck into it and see if I'd like to make her look like the show. That'd be one of the miniatures where I prefer her to look like the show, with like the black leather.
I've got a fan of Emilia Clarke here, have we?
I don't think there are people that aren't fans of Emilia Clarke, is there?
That's true, mate. It's true. Well, if they're not, they're wrong.
Yeah, that is the truth.
Nice. Yeah, so that's that one. So then we go around to Mirri Maz Duur, who's really pick up a lot of table time nowadays. She's, when the update was really kind to her. She's looking great. She's very similar to the Dothraki colour scheme, so they're very nice earthy tones, that sort of slightly darker skin tone. Do you want to talk us through the process of that?
Yeah, sure. So again, this was the larger version of Missandei. I sort of try to approach the skin in the same way, sort of starting off with the base of the Bugman's Glow, and then sort of adding the dried bark for the shadows and ivory tones to sort of push up to the highlights, trying not to highlight it too much. Was the main part of that. Everything else was just sort of like, so it started off with the dryad bark as sort of like the main, like the universal shadow tone across it, and everything was just like gradual highlights. So we've got highlights of like an olive green on some of her satchels, and then we've got some more like ivory on other bits, just to sort of make it look like separate pieces that she's wearing rather than just one big blob of leather. So I just tried to, and I think there's a little bit, so like she's got like a chain across her tunic there, which I tried to do a tiny bit of non-metallic gold on that, just to make each individual piece stand out rather than just one sort of blob of brown leather.
Yeah, I definitely feel like if this was an ice cream, it would definitely be vanilla, right? Because there's nothing that jumps out and just takes you, like, it's a complete contrast to what Xaro, Zoe, and Daxos is, isn't it? It's just very earthy. Nothing jumps out. I mean, you've even managed to get an almost white under tunic, underskirt for her, and that still doesn't detract away from the general feel of the model, which I think is what a lot of people stumble on. Is they put a really overpowering colour onto a miniature that's supposed to be quite neutral in its tone,
Yeah,
and overpowers the miniature. But you haven't done that here. Even the knife that she's holding is, it doesn't pull away from the rest of the miniature. You still draw into the face and the chest area where all the bits of bone and stuff is, which is where you should be drawn to when you're looking at a miniature like this.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. The main thing with Mirri is like when you sort of meet her in the show and in the books, she's sort of like being kicked about by the Dothraki. Obviously, she's just been conquered. Her people just been bashed up, and she's sort of like being dragged through like the dust and the mud. So I didn't want her to look clean or pristine or sort of like bright. I didn't want her sort of like, yeah, the complete opposite of Xaro is basically what I went for. I wanted her to look sort of drab and sort of dusty and sort of like dragged through the sand and the grass.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely achieved that, mate. It's definitely a neutral tone. I mean, I look at both her next to Dany. They're both very similar feeling miniatures, other than the fact that one's got dark hair, one's got bright hair. So it's really nice to sort of get that link. You could almost run a thematic Dothraki list with just earthy tone into you as well, which is really good.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of that. Actually, that might be something I'll push forward in the future.
Nice. And next up we have Xaro, Zoe, and Daxos. So again, it really got tuned up in the last rules update. And you've done an amazing job of making, again, it's very similar to Illyrio Mopatis. So you needed strong colours, rich colours. He's a wealthy individual. He's got a lot of influence in Calf.
Calf, yeah.
Yeah, so you needed to put a lot of strong colours on here. So do you want to sort of talk through your approach to this one?
Yeah, no problem. So again, the sort of like the inspiration was the card art. I think it looks fantastic, and the actual difference from the show when I sort of saw the card art, I was like, why didn't they do this in the show? He looks so cool. So I decided to stick to that as best I could. And yeah, obviously with the blues contrasting with the non-metallic sort of golds on his shoulder plates, and his wrist, like his cuffs. Tried to get a sort of like a dark sort of reddy colour through his sash and on the underside of his cape, sort of like the inner facing one. And I thought that was my first sort of attempt at like really small scale. I don't know if you can call it a freehand. I just did some like weird little patterns on his sash and stuff with like the gold metallic paints that I've been using, non-metallics.
It's really nice, mate. It's really nice. Yeah, you say he needed to stand out because of our sort of, our riches as an individual. Awesome. Okay, mate. Well, so. I'll just allow you to spin one moment. So let's just go through some last little bits with you. So, just on the basing side of it. So, NCU wise, you've gone for just a standard black base. You haven't based it with anything. Is that a conscious decision? Is that because you're running out of time, or is that something you're going to go back and redo, or are you happy with them being black?
No, so I sort of got towards the end. I think it was I was speaking to people in the chat. It was the day before Free Swords, and that was the last thing I had to do. But I didn't have. First of all, I didn't have the plan in place, and I didn't have the energy levels. Like in that last week, I was sort of painting like 5 to 7 hours each day to try and get everything ready. But for my NCUs, I want to, and on their base, and I want to highlight the fact that they're not on the battlefield. I want to highlight the fact that they're in, like they're staring across a battle map somewhere, and they're making plans, and they're not out there on the earth and the rocks. And so I want to do maybe like a marble effect across to symbolize they're in like a palace or something very different to a battlefield. And I haven't made my mind up yet exactly what I want to go on there, but that's why they're black. And I need them to look neat, so they just got a coat of black just so they all matched each other and looked neat on the day.
Yeah, nice. Okay, nice. Yeah, I was just interested in for the reason behind it, which you covered clearly. And just on Daario, you've given him a sandy base. Was that a choice prior to deciding you're going for the mud battlefield, or is we're getting glimpses of a new army coming up?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the rules are in terms of competing for best painted with the same faction. If there's because I don't know if you can use like a different composition to go for it. I've got like an idea for like a Brazen Beast, Pit Fighter, sort of like City Watch type theme rather than out on the open battlefield. So obviously that's going to be a bit more sounding. We'll add some bricks and stuff, like maybe like a broken down wall or something like that to that base. So we can sort of fit this next theme when I do my Brazen Beast and my Pit Fighters, and it's all going to be sort of like Essos based rather than Westeros. So obviously more sandy and warm rather than these sort of like churned up fields.
Awesome. Okay, so you're basically looking at separating the base in the army between units, then, right?
Yeah, which is going to be sort of like a theme that I'm going to push. Obviously, we've got EAGT coming up, and I'm doing my Starks, and obviously we bring 2 lists on the day, and I want them to look very different from each other, in terms of their style and their themes.
Oh, nice. Okay, we'll look forward to seeing that then. Brilliant. Okay, cool. So that's it then, mate. So that's us covered all of your stuff. I mean, your army's really nice, but I really love how you've linked it with the basin and the battlefield, the earthy tones. I think you've done a great job of making it look like an army, despite being a quite ununiformed. Ununiformed? Is that the right word?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, it's used ununiformed.
Yeah.
A non-uniformed army. I think you've done a great job of sort of tying it all together, mate. And the non-metallic metals look absolutely stunning as well.
Oh, fantastic! I appreciate it. Yeah, and just a little word on the day. Obviously, I'm really new to Song and to the competition circuit as a whole, but it was so much fun, and getting this stuff ready for that day was fantastic. There were some other armies that I thought was absolute standout as well. Obviously, you've got OJ stuff, which needs no introduction, but obviously there was one that really stood out to me on the day, when the last game of the day, it was me and Rick with his Greyjoys, and they are so bright and striking. And even his basing, it had that aquamarine color running through it as well. Opposite, obviously, my earthy, my red Targaryens, it was really, really cool to see that on the table. And I think that was one of my favorite things, just sort of seeing the level of painting throughout the room, and it was just brilliant.
Yeah. With all these competitions, we have loads of great painters, and you mentioned Dan Toon's armies are great. There's OJ stuff's brilliant. There's loads of people there that've got really nice painting armies, and it's really hard to sort of decide on the day. But hopefully, eventually, we'll just run out of people to give the award to, and everyone will get best painted eventually.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. When everyone's best painted, no one is.
And then we move on to extra best painted army awards.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was fantastic. Thank you for obviously hosting it. Thanks to everyone else, like the other people of the Yecats team, getting it all good, and yeah, it was fantastic.
Awesome, brilliant. Okay, so we can expect to see you at the AGT then with more Targaryens.
No, it's Starks at the EAGT.
Oh, you said, yeah, of course you did. Yeah. Nice.
Yes. So I'm going with. So the theme is night and day. So I'm going to have one army painted at night time and one army painted at daytime. The idea being you fight one army during the day, and then when you're resting up and licking your wounds, the nighttime boys turn up and finish you off.
Nice. Sounds like a weekend in Romford.
Yeah, it does.
Awesome. Oh, mate, sweet. Well, I look forward to seeing that, mate. And cheers for coming on today and talking through it, mate. I'm glad you enjoyed the tournament. There's more of them to come. Obviously, check them out on the Facebook page and the Discord and stuff. But yeah, cheers coming on today. Cheers, talk to us about your experience and the way you paint. It's been nice. Been good to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. I've really enjoyed it.
For everyone listening, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Share with your friends and leave some comments in the comment section. Me and Lewis will be lurking in the comment section, ready to reply as and when you drop them. And if it's a Lewis specific question, I'll chase him up and get him to come across now and have a chat with you on YouTube. But thanks for taking your time to come and check this video out and listen to us talking about painting toy soldiers. Take care. I'll speak to you soon.